Wanted to show something new I'm working on for the wife. My little helper isn't here. She's at grandma's, but this is actually going to be a semi-portable staging area for tumblers. So I got it 4 feet wide. I want to say the top 2 boards, it's about 14 inches deep, so that when a tumbler sits in the hole that'll have vertical, they'll be able to drip onto this and not hurt other pieces, because one of the problems we've been running into is when she's doing tumblers on her old holder that I built for her in a hurry, they actually drip onto each other. And I'll show you what that looks like in a second. Alright, don't mind the mess. This is her she shed that obviously I'm still a vast majority of a work in progress. But this is the old holder, only held 5, but because of me having it vertical like this, when she was holding stuff on top, it was dripping onto the bottom, so that's what we were going to try to avoid. Putting on the spacers for the back 2x4 that I'll be putting on. So this will be the deck they lean over, and then obviously this will be lined up after I screw that one all the way down. But then either I'll leave it at that, or I'm going to be putting another flat piece on the back, just so it looks pretty for the wife, probably. And I will drill through that so many holes so that there's just a single height turner sticking out every so often, so that when she's either glittering them or they've already been glittered, but she doesn't have them on the turner yet because she's doing something else to them, they can sit here and not ruin any other projects. Alright, got the holes drilled for the top bar, and I'm actually going to clamp it and drill in to this, I guess I would call it a spacer, just to help it not split, because even though it's pressure treated, I just happen to have some pressure treated lying around for that. I still don't want to risk it, so I happen to have a really long small drill bit that works for the size screw I'm using, because I'm just using I think it's a standard number 2 or something. Let's see, 2.5 inch. Okay. But if you don't have a long drill bit like this, obviously you can use a shorter one and just drill in and then flip it, and if you measure, drill the other way and line up the hole somehow. I mean, you probably don't have to pre-drill. I don't want to deal with split wood, because rather the wife be happy the first time. So I will clamp these down, and I will look at starting the holes. Then I'm going to take this off and then continue to drill the holes without this in the way. So got it clamped. Already did one, but basically I just take the drill bit, get it in the hole. Literally just a little bit. That's all you need. That way when you take the clamp off, there's my 2 holes. So like I said, with the longer bit it just makes it easier. You don't need to do this. I just like to take the extra time. So I was using a 2.5 inch screw. Alright, obviously that's not going to be long enough, and I don't want to run out and go buy like 4 inch screws or something just for this job. So what I'm going to do, since I've already done a pre-drilled hole that's good for the threaded side of my screw, I'm going to find one that's just under the width, or I guess actually just over. So what would that be? 5/16? Okay. And so with the 5/16, what I'm going to do is I'm going to determine how much I want the screw in to the bottom board. Whew, of course that's going to be a lot. And then I'm going to, alright, so let's semi-mark that. I guess a pen would have been a lot better. Okay. Or a good old pencil. So Sorry for the crappy camera work. Trying to get this done before the wife gets home as a surprise. Alright, so that's where I want the head of my screw to rest. And then that way I have at least almost half, if not a little more, into the bottom thing. Now, this isn't really going to be that much weight bearing, but I'd just rather be safe. And so, to get to that depth, I'll have to find some tape. But so, we're going to take the drill bit, the bigger one, go down to there, and we are going to tape off this drill bit so I know where to start. Alright, marked it. No, it's not the best, just a little duct tape, but I don't have it in the budget to run out and buy those drill bit markers that clamp onto the drill bit. But you can see that should be right about where I know to stop. So we'll drill it out and see how it goes. The only other downside to having to go down so far is I couldn't really avoid having to have one of the longer screwdriver tips for the drill. Luckily I had this because I had another job similar that I needed it to, but if you don't have that, it really stinks to have to do it by hand. But so far, all good to go. You see the next part now. Alright, with the backboard on, I have it to where it doesn't line up completely. I wanted the backboard a little higher. But I'm planning on drilling straight through this piece. Obviously this is just to make it look prettier, because wife likes things to look pretty. And I'm going to also polyurethane it because that's what she wants. And if you're wondering why I'm working on this cardboard box, it's because it keeps raining outside. Every time I go outside, it starts raining. I come in, it stops raining. I go out, it started raining. So I was like, you know what? Gave up. I was like, whatever. Just going to do it inside on this wobbly workstation. So, what I'm going to do is, do a small screw at the end, at both ends, and then one in the middle. And then I'm going to bring one of her tumblers, on a football on the PVC and line it up and see how many I can fit on this. I'll mark them, and then after I clamp this, I'm actually going to drill them then. That way, it's a perfectly lined up hole. And I'll be using the 7/8 inch Forster bit again that I've been using for all the tumbler turns. Attached, obviously only did 3 screws. I'm going to be basing the sizing off of my 40 ounce again. Obviously this is just my personal 40 ounce, which is why my wife has not done anything to it, because I like it just black. But it is a little bit bigger than the 30 ounce, so the sizing on this will make the workability with a 30 ounce or a 20 ounce or smaller even easier. The 40 ounce is exactly 4 1/4 inches in diameter, so I'm gonna see what works best of having it, because like I said, this isn't really for her to work on. This is just supposed to be like a staging board. She's already had this on a turner, or she's had this on the other stand, so it's already Mod Podged, glittered, maybe even epoxied once or twice, and she's just having it sit to the side before she does something else. So I'm thinking probably between 5.5 to 6 inches each. Let's see what it looks. Look in the back side now. I've marked where the 2x4 starts and stops, and then, it's not exactly the length it's supposed to be or whatnot, so I just went ahead and measured up 1.5 inches, because I think that'll be plenty centered enough to have the tumbler in it and enough room underneath in case she's still working on it, and then obviously she's got all the overhead she needs. So I'm going to take my adjustable square that I took apart, since that happens to be 48 inches too. I'll line up these 2 marks, and that will be where I'm going to mark a straight line, so I know where to do the center point for my cuts, which I had already measured out as well. I gave them 5-inch interval, so I took 1 inch off the end because I didn't want to have the tumbler right on the end, because then obviously stuff would fall off which the wife probably wouldn't be happy about, so I came in an inch, and then I did 5-inch spreads, and so dead center at 2.5 inches is where I plan to put the drill mark. So 2.5, 2.5, another 2.5 is where it's going to be cut. 5-inch, 2.5, 5-inch, 2.5, 5-inch, 2.5, on and on and on. So I believe I should be able to fit 6 or 7, which will be a minor step up from the 5-piece holder she has now that falls on each other. Holes are drilled. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Alright, so she'll have 9 instead of the 5 that we're messing with each other. Of course, right there. One little splinter. I'll get that later. Alright, and I always keep the football tool around so that I can make sure everything is good. So, all the way to the back of the 2x4 shows it's pretty sturdy but not too stiff. You can get it in there. And the reason I call this the football tool is this is the one PVC I keep around. Obviously, the one side is the regular Schedule 40. The other side has been honed down to give it a sharper point, which, you know, I try to resharpen every so often, but I use this to actually help cut the hole in the foam footballs to put on the turners. I am currently polyurethaning it solely for the fact that the wife would like it that way, because obviously I fully expect this to get epoxy on it, get glitter on it, spray paint on it, and even with polyurethane I don't think that's just a wipe clean or anything of the sort, but you know, I figure if the wife likes it from the get-go, that'll be a better setup anyways. She'll be happier to use it. And if anything though, with polyurethane it, even though I fully expect her to be getting epoxy, glitter and whatnot on it, if for whatever reason it were to get wet, because obviously it is out in her she shed, this should help not have it expand and blow up almost like MDF does when it gets wet. So hopefully that'll be a little bit more peace of mind with this piece of furniture for her. Just finished installing it, you know, a minute ago. The wife's she shed. Again, don't mind the mess, but her workstation, where she's been doing the dual tumbler turners. I'll have to upload that video at some point of making those. There's the single turner of the other video. Her cups that she's refinishing, and then the wood table we built where it's her main work area. Has her glitter and some other projects. So I figured this would be the best spot. So, there it is, installed. I went ahead from cutting these at an angle to, you know, make it nicer looking, and also she's not bumping her head or anything underneath. I use the other parts of those as helper supports. So I got 3 of those to help hold it up, and then I have 3 3-inch screws holding it to the thing. Now, like I said, you know, it's not a huge weight holding shelf, so I didn't feel it needed much more than that. You know, at most it's going to have 5 pounds on it. We're not putting anything heavy. But that's it, finished and fully polyurethaned. So hopefully she'll be happy when she gets home and sees it. That's it.